Hello everyone, I am Dr. Ajay Kumar. I am the Deputy Director for Center for Operational Research in International Union Against Tuberculosis and Lung Disease. In this session, I am going to show how to use EpiData to calculate the data entry time, the time that is required to enter one record. Now, before we proceed ahead, we need to understand a few concepts, especially with reference to how EpiData treats dates and time. EpiData works with dates as date numbers. In fact, any date that we enter is internally converted as a number and counts any date as the number of days since 31st December 1899. Now, this particular date is considered the anchor date in EpiData and is considered day 1. So, for example, a date of 15th October 2000 is converted to 36,814, which means 36,814 days have passed since the anchor date, which is 31st December 1899. Similarly, 16th October 2000 will be 36,815. So if you want to know the difference between two dates, for example, between 15th October 2000 and 16th October 2000, the way EpiData works is it converts each date into date numbers, that is days since the anchor date, and then takes a difference. So in this case, 36,815 minus 36,814, which is equal to 1 day, and that we know clearly, which is obvious in this example. So this is very important concept to understand, that EpiData works with dates as date numbers. Similarly, the time is indicated in EpiData as a decimal. So any time we enter is converted by EpiData into a fraction or a decimal, which is nothing but a fraction of the time in the day. So for example, 6 a.m. or 600 hours is considered as 0.25 by EpiData, and 0.25 is derived by 6 hours divided by the total time in the day is 24 hours. So that is how it gets converted. Similarly, 12 hours is converted into 0.5 because 12 divided by 24 is 0.5. And similarly, 4:30 a.m. in the morning is treated as 0.1875. Is this clear? Is this concept clear? So, for example, a time of 15th October 2000, 1800 hours. Okay, for example, so 6 p.m. on this particular date, 15th October 2000, is internally converted by EpiData as 36,814.75. Now the integer part refers to the date number, the days that have been passed since the anchor date. And the decimal part means the fraction of the time in the day. Is this concept clear? This is very important to understand. The second concept to understand, that EpiData understands dates only in the European format. Okay, so for example, 1/7/2012 is understood by EpiData as 1st July of 2012 and not 7th January. So if you are going to use date constants for calculations, for any calculations, you have to make sure that it is expressed in the format DDMMYY. So for example, 15th March 1977 should be expressed as 15/03/1977 within double quotes, or you can say use the function date and within brackets you can mention 15,3,1977, again sticking to DDMMYY. YY format. Now let's introduce to a new function in EpiData called now. What is now? It's an EpiData function and it records the time at this point as per the clock of the computer. So whatever is the time in the clock of the computer, it records that particular time. And as I told you, this writes the date as the integer part and the fraction of the time in the day as the decimal. So what does 39,650.864672 means? What does it mean? 39,650 refers to the date. That is the days, it refers to the number of days passed since the anchor date, which is 31st December 1899. So you divide that by 365.25 and you will get 108.56 years, and add that to your anchor date and you will know that it is somewhere in July 2008. This date lies somewhere in the month of July of the year 2008. Now what does 0.864672 mean? It means the fraction of the time in the day. So multiply that by 24 and it will give you 20.75 hours. So that is what will give the time of the day in hours. So is this function clear now? Okay. Now hold on for a minute. We will see its application shortly. So now we have to use these concepts to do an exercise, and that is to calculate the data entry time involved in entering data in a record. So for example, as steps, first of all, download the solution from the previous exercise. Create a new field called seconds. So let's say it will be an integer field of length 4. Okay, so edit the quest file and create this new field to capture time taken for data entry. Okay, now make this a no enter field so that this is auto generated. Then once you have made that change in the quest file, revise the rec file and edit the check file appropriately so that you calculate the time taken for data entry. Now the tip I want to give here is you have to use the function now and the concept of temporary variables that you learned in our previous session. So if you remember, temporary variables are variables which are defined in the check file, not in the quest file, and they do not become part of the database but are very useful in interim calculations. Okay, so you have to use the concept of temporary variables in this exercise. Now let us see how we can make use of this and calculate data entry time. Let me switch to EpiData. Okay, so I have already downloaded the solution of the previous exercise, so I have it ready. Now I'm going to open the quest file. That's the first step. Open quest file and create a new field called seconds. I'm going to call it seconds, which is data entry time, and I'm going to make this a integer variable of length 4. Let me save it and align the fields. Okay, save it and make data file because there is no data entered, so I can make that. Okay, done. Yes, and now I have to do some checks. The first thing is I want to make this particular field seconds a no enter field. So you know this how to do. The command is no enter, single word, accept and close. And then we have to create a temporary variable. Okay, so to create a temporary variable you have to open the full check file. So I'm going to say file open, choose the check file and come here. So there appears to be a temporary file already. I can add the new temporary variable. I'm going to say start time. This is my new temporary variable, and I'm going to give it the format of a date number 1 2 3 4 5 dot and the time 2 3 4 5 6. So I want this particular variable to capture the time at a given point. So what I'm trying to do is document the time at the beginning of data entry in that record, document the time again at the end of the record, and calculate the difference. That is what I'm trying to achieve here. So the field that I will use to temporarily store the time is this start time. Define start time. Is that clear? Okay. Now I'm going to use another new command called before record. It's a block command like other block commands, so you have to terminate it with the end. So this before record, that means before you start entering any data in a record, I'm saying start time equals now. Okay, so this particular temporary variable start time, that equals now. Now means it records the time at that point in time, which is the point before any data is entered into a record. So it captures this particular variable start time, captures the time at the point before any data is entered in a record. Is this clear? Yes. And then I want to do some calculation after record, because I want to look at the time after record as well. Okay, so the way I look at it is after record, I'm going to use an if command. If seconds equals dot, okay, if seconds equals dot, which it is to begin with, then I'm going to say seconds equals now, okay, minus start time, now minus start time. Do you see this? So this now here documents the time at the time of after record. That means after you have finished entering all the data. Now this start time has captured the now of before record. Okay, so now minus start time. Now is after record time, start time is before record time. And this interval, I'm going to multiply it with 86,400. Now 86,400 is the total number of seconds in a day. I've just converted 24 hours into total number of seconds because we want the time in seconds. So seconds equals now minus start time into 86,400. And then I'm going to say endif. That's it. Let's close it. So is this clear? So I have defined a temporary variable and call it start time. Okay, it is housing, it's a decimal, it's a float variable and will house the time. Now before record, I'm going to say start time equals now. Now, as I told, is a function in EpiData which documents the time at that particular point. So whatever is the computer clock at that particular point will be documented. So before record, so before any data is entered in a record, we want to document that time and that I'm going to put it in start time. After record, that is after all the data is entered into the record, when just before it saves, at that time I'm going to say if seconds equals not, then seconds equals now. This now refers to the time after all data has been entered in that record minus start time. Okay, and this will give us a fraction, and I'm going to multiply that fraction by the number of seconds in a day to get the data entry time in seconds. Is this clear? So let me close it and see if this is working. Open. Okay, let's enter some data. Okay, save. Okay, now moment you save, let's go back and check. Yes, so if you see in this particular seconds field, which is a no enter field, it has taken us 14 seconds to enter this particular record. Is this clear? So let's go again and try. Okay. Okay, let's go back and see. Yes, so this is capturing the seconds. Is this clear? Now one of the problems is, let us say during double entry and validation, I make some corrections in certain records. Let's say there was an error in this particular record, and I want to come here and change something here and here, maybe. Okay, I've made all the changes that are required in this record. Now when I save and go back to the data entry time, it remains 20 seconds. But I have used some additional time to make the corrections. Now how do you make changes to the formula or to the code so that this also captures the additional time that was used in correcting any data? Is the situation clear? Right now it is calculating the data entry time only for the initial entry. Whatever time we have used in correcting the data is not getting captured here. So how do we ensure that to happen? Let me close this and open the check file. Go back to the code. So start time is there. In after record here, if seconds equals not, then this is the case. There's a command part of the if then end if is also else. That means if that is not the case, that means if seconds is not empty, then seconds equals, it has to calculate the time taken, seconds, whatever is there, plus the new time taken. Okay, so this is how you can modify. Is this clear? So let's close and try and see if that works. Okay, so let's go back to a previous record. So now 20 seconds. Let me handle something here. So let's say this is the correction I wanted to do. This is okay. This is changed. This is also changed. Maybe. Okay. So now this time taken should be changed. Let's see if that has worked. Do you see this? So it is now not only capturing the initial data entry time, but also the time that is involved in making corrections. So this concludes the session on how to calculate data entry time. Thank you very much.